Today what I'm going to have a go at is making a mixed media piece. I've got this really long thin canvas and I thought I would draw some poppies on it and then do some mixed media on it. Now it's really easy to draw poppies. I literally just go round this sort of shape and I hope this is coming out. So that'll be my first poppy there. I'm going to put another one here and you just need to do wiggly lines for these, which is what I like. Yeah, that one will do. I'll put another one down here like that, and then I'll have some stems coming down as well, and that one can go there. And I'm also going to put some buds on, a bit big for a bud maybe. Got to do some quite fat chunky buds like that. Now as I've said before many times, I am no artist. I only know a very few skills, but the skills I do know I actually really enjoy and I get a great deal of pleasure out. So never let something like drawing or trying something new stop you from doing it. Yeah, there we go. So that's the outline. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add something to this to make it a little bit more three-dimensional. I'm going to add two things to it. First thing is some twine, and I'm going to glue some twine on around my actual petals themselves. And then the second thing is I'm going to be using my homemade texture paste, which is a brilliant paste. Honestly, it's amazing, and I'll show you that as well. What I'm going to soak the twine in first is some PVA glue, and I've just put some in an old pot here, and I'm going to do lengths of about that much because I can cut them down once they've been put on there. So I'll do a variety of lengths from this to just a little bit longer and soak them in there. So they're all put in there now, and all I need to be doing is soaking in there. So I'm going to push them down so they're all really well covered. And I'm going to give them about 5 or 10 minutes soaking in this so it really penetrates right the way through all of that twine. When it dries, it will go lovely and hard and it will stick to this canvas beautifully. So I'm going to leave that now for about 10-15 minutes. I'm going to work from the top down, but I've turned it around to make it a little bit easier. Now I am going to take some of this excess off here because that doesn't quite need to be on there, and then all I need to do is put this onto my canvas, push it down, and then where I need to cut it, just get my scissors and cut it, join it together. I'm also only going to do the flowers. I'm not going to do the stems and the buds. I think they'll look nice without the twine on them. So again, putting that on there like that, following my pattern around a little bit, making it a bit wiggled and cutting it there. Now if it moves around, that's not a problem. All you need to do is pop it down using a pair of tweezers like this, and if you want to get it out and around into a different shape, you can by using your tweezers or your fingers. What I will do is I will go down around them all and tap them down as well to make sure I've got really good contact with that canvas. So they're all on there now, and what I'm going to do is just take a bit of this glue that I've got mixed up here and just paint it over the top of these, going all the way around and also inside the edges as well. So what that'll do is that'll help stiffen this up and keep it a lot more secure. It literally took me about 5 minutes to cut these pieces of twine and put them into the shapes that I needed. Then once this is finished and I've finished painting these bits over, I will leave this to dry overnight. 5 or 6 hours would probably be enough on a warm day, but it's quite cold here today, so I'm going to give this overnight. And then overnight, that should be really hard, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's dry and what we're going to do next. These have all dried now. They're lovely and hard, and what I want to do now is add some of my texture paste to this. Now, I've mixed up a little bit of my own texture paste. If you want to know how I make this, it's so easy. I'll link the video at the end of this video. All I'm going to do is pop a little bit of water, not too much, onto that canvas there, and I only want the bud to have a bit of texture, so I want it to be kind of a lifted up bud. And if you want to smooth this out a little bit more, then just add a tiny bit of water to it and that will smooth it out. And this doesn't take long to dry, it won't crack, and it will stay on there lovely. I love this texture paint. I went through so many test recipes before I got to this one. There we are. I'm going to put a little bit of texture in it, and that'll do. And I'll do the other 3 buds in exactly the same way. Well, these are all nice and dry now, and I actually decided to put some of this texture into the middle of each of these as well, because I thought that would look cute. So now let's get on with painting it. I'm only going to be using a very limited palette of paints. I'm going to be using a red, a green, and some white, and some yellow. What I will do is I'm going to put a base colour down first of a red, and I'm using a cadmium red and some white, and these are just acrylic paints that I'm using here. But what I'm going to do first is go around all the edges of the flowers, because I don't want this string or twine to be the final edge. I want the edge to be overlapping that somewhat. And I'm just using 2 different colours, the white and the reds, to give it a bit of interest. So I'm happy with that. And now what I can do, because that's done, I can actually go in and do a lighter colour over all the string, and then that covers that string and it gives it that dimensional look. And I will go ahead and I'll do that on all 3 of the flowers and go inside here. Well, I've gone around all those and painted them in, and what I'm going to do now is put a little bit of white on my brush, and this is quite a large roundish brush, and then knock a lot of that off. And while this is still a little bit damp, just go through and bring some of that in to here, just to give it a bit more tonal difference. And I'm following the shape of the actual petals, if you can see there, going all the way around. I may even put a bit of white on here in places, just as if it's picking up a bit of light. And I'll do that for all the flowers. And then what I'm going to do is paint in a black paint around the edge of each one of the centres. Well, I'm really happy with that now. And what I'm going to do is, before I do anything else, I'm going to dry that all off with a hairdryer. There we go, that should be dry enough now. And now I'm going to paint this textured middle all in a yellowy colour. Now, I suppose if it was going to be a poppy, I should have painted the whole thing in black. I just think that'd be too much. And this textured paste absolutely paints amazingly. It is lovely. And when I've done that, what I'm also going to do is just pick up a tiny bit of black on my brush, mix that in with my yellow, because obviously I want some different yellows, different kind of tones in there. And then I'll drop my brush back into that bright yellow and just dab some of that around as well. And I'll do that on all 3, and then I'll let those dry. Well, while that's drying, that is nearly dry, but while it's drying, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this kind of longer bristle brush. I've got my 2 greens here, dabbing it into my water. I've sketched in roughly where I want my stems to be, and all I'm doing is I'm dragging this down so that I've got a rough stem in place, slightly thinner and thicker in places to make it look a little bit more natural. And we've got this stem that's coming all the way down here, and it's crossing that one there like that. Just going to lighten that up a little bit, and I'm going to paint in the stems and also the leaves and the little bits that are holding the buds. And now I've got all the stems and the leaves painted in, what I'm going to do is just go over them with a bit of a lighter green in places and lighten it up. So for instance, in this leaf here, I'm going to go a bit there, again here, probably down one side of the stem. And just go around putting bits in like that, so that it gives it a bit more, like I said, interest for me, and it's just not one flat colour. You can do quite a contrasting part of that as well. I might mix a bit of that green with a bit of that yellow and lighten it right up and put some in it. Just put it where you think. I know there's a right way of doing this, but I have no idea what it is, so there we go. So for instance, I'm going to put a little bit in there, this lighter colour, bit down here, and just go round and doing bits like that where I think it would look nice in there and benefit from it. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do with the buds. And for the buds, what I'm going to do is, firstly, I'm going to paint them all this pale green, all the way around. Then I'm going to dry that, and then I'm going to paint half of it with the pale green and quite a bit of yellow mixed into it. And then I'm going to take some of this darker green and just put some lines into it like that, going round the actual shape. And I'm not drying this in between, because what I'm going to do now is wipe off my brush and then soften those lines a little bit with the brush like that. And I'm going to finish those off, and then I've got one more thing that I want to do. So now I've got all my dots in, what I'm going to do is clean up this background a little bit. I've rubbed out all my markings, and now I'm going in with a little bit of white paint, but I'm not going in everywhere. All I'm going to do is try and cover up some of those marks with a little bit of this paint. I don't want a full painted background, because if I'd have wanted that, I could have easily put one on before starting this, and that's not kind of the look that I'm going for. On going through, putting a bit of white paint where I feel it needs it, and if you want to, you could add texture to this back again at this stage, but I don't want any more texture in it. I'm quite happy with the amount of texture that I've got. I'm just putting a few brush strokes in here. That will do me, and now I'm going to leave that to fully dry, and then I will give it a coat of matte varnish. Once I've done that, I'll show you what it looks like completely finished. Well, that's all finished now, and I've hung it up in the wall in my studio. I love it. I really like it against the black wall as well. And a really easy method of creating something that stands out. It's got a bit of 3D to it, because you've got mixed media in there and some nice colours, but it's such an easy technique. Let me know in the comments what you think of it. I think I'm going to try a lot more different things with painting and techniques, because actually I love it. I really do love it. Please boot that like button and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my other crafting adventures. Take care. Enjoy your crafting. Bye.